Professional development kind of leaves a bad taste in your mouth, right? Just hearing those words, it's almost a bad word. PD, right? Anytime you're invited to attend PD or voluntold to attend a professional development session, you're kind of immediately turned off. What am I going to learn? Why do I need to do this? Am I going to take anything away from this? Those are just some of the thoughts that come to my mind when I know that I have to attend an upcoming session or professional development. So, what is professional development currently? Well, most of what I've seen harkens me back to, 20 some odd years ago when I was attending university at Arizona State University. And I had a professor, Dr. Carlson, who was an established writer who taught a class on short story writing. And while I was aspiring at that time and really enjoyed writing, that class really kind of ruined it for me. It was a lot of sit and get. He was at the podium explaining everything that could ever be explained, and I was sitting there learning nothing. So that's kind of the current state of professional development. But why? So, a big part of why this current status of professional learning is ineffective entails a lack of engagement. When you're just sitting there and someone is giving you all this information, an info dump, so to speak, you're trying your best to record that, because even though it might be something that you desperately want to learn more about, this information is just coming at you and you're doing your best to record it. But what you don't have is true engagement. You're not actively involved in anything besides recording notes. You're not practicing what the person on the stage is preaching. You're not able to synthesize that information and think of the different ways you could apply it. You're not really offered an opportunity to really engage and interact with that information. Much like the lack of engagement prevents you from really touching the information, so to speak, so does a lack of time or a short duration for you to be able to truly learn the strategies that are being presented to you and to implement and understand the process involved with this new information. To be truly effective, professional learning has to provide a long enough duration for you to be able to learn, to go through the steps, to investigate and implement the process, and trial and error and feedback loops, feed forward, if you will. All of those things are crucial to you really learning and becoming effective with the information and the skills and the things that you are taking from a good professional development session. The absence of ongoing support is another reason that the current model of professional development is not successful. When you think about a teacher in a classroom, you think about those small groups, you think about those one-on-one sessions that teachers have with their students in order to reinforce the learning, to make sure that there aren't any misconceptions, and that we're all on the right path. So in order for professional learning to be effective, there has to be support throughout the process. It's crucial to making sure not only that the participants are practicing what they're learning, but also to make sure that they have understood it correctly and that you're reinforcing their value that they have found in whatever your professional learning is promoting. If professional development doesn't include the modeling of the practice that's to be implemented, then there's no way for the participants to make a connection to what it is they're expected to do once they've finished with your session. It's very important that you model everything that you expect others to do, just as you would do in your classroom with your students. Finally, ineffective professional development is typically one size fits all, where it's just, this is what I want to say, and this is how I'm going to say it, and everybody gets the same thing. Well, we know as educators that that is not effective. It needs to be differentiated. In the case of professional learning, it needs to be directed. You need to know your audience. You need to consider the content area, the grade level, any specific special populations or anything that might be there, so that you can provide that content that they need so that they can truly take away something from your professional learning session and go and implement that right away. I don't want to be all doom and gloom here. Just because the traditional model of professional development or professional learning isn't effective in its current state doesn't mean that we can't make it better, that we can't do better. So that leads us to how? How can we make it better? The first thing we need to begin considering when developing and designing professional learning going forward is our approach. Traditional professional development is typically offered a mile wide and only an inch deep in order to cover as many people as possible, but not get very far or very into what the individual teachers could actually use. There's a complete lack of differentiation and depth. The other thing that we must consider is how the content of our professional learning that we want to deliver relates to the audience. Are we presenting this as something that a teacher as a technician would need, or something that a teacher as an intellectual is going to use? Knowing your audience is incredibly important. And in this case, we're addressing teachers as an audience. But we might not consider the duality of the teacher. And depending on what it is that we want to present and promote for use in the classroom, we need to consider the teacher's role in that endeavor. When providing professional learning for a teacher in a role as a technician, and we're providing something technical, a technical skill training, we need to consider using a workshop or a coaching type of professional learning. According to the Center for Public Education's report on teaching effective professional development, it can take up to 20 separate instances of practice for a teacher to master a skill. It could take even more if that skill is quite complex. So a coaching or a workshop method for a technical skills development is crucial in a teacher attaining mastery. When considering the teacher as an intellectual, it's important that we provide them with the research so that they can examine it, they can synthesize it, dissect it, take that research, and apply it to developing strategies to achieve new goals. The support that they need in this role as an intellectual is more that of their peers, so they can work together, share experiences, revamp, receive feedback or feed forward from each other, and work toward that goal of applying that research to their practice. The best kind of support for the teacher as an intellectual is actually a professional learning community. In our efforts to improve professional learning, we've taken a look at how the approach can make a significant change in the effectiveness of professional learning. But another component that creates that change that we need to see as well is the execution. So, what is it we need to do to execute this professional learning and ensure that it is effective and successful, and that the teachers attending have something they can take away and apply? We've determined our audience based upon what it is that we're presenting for these teachers. Now we're going to reflect back to those 5 principles of effective professional development provided by the Center for Public Education. We talked a little bit about the duration. We need to make sure that we can follow up and make sure, again, those 20 separate instances of practice are required for a teacher to master a skill. So we need to support that teacher throughout the process, not just during the delivery. And then that falls into that support as well. The engagement, we want to make sure that we've got some activities where they can practice and be invested and actively learning what it is that we are hoping they will take with them back to the classroom and apply for the benefit of all. Modeling is also a huge component of any effective professional learning, showing exactly how to do something and how it works, crucial to providing teachers with what they need in order to be successful. And the 5th one, very specific, this is your differentiation, making sure that while you are presenting, you are considering and addressing the needs of those different teachers. You may have already considered content and grade levels, things of that nature, but have you considered how they like to learn and what is available for them, and how can you accommodate their learning while you are providing this professional learning? When we make this shift to change professional learning from the traditional model to a model that considers the approach, the audience, the execution, and the extended duration that is required to support teachers as they continue to learn and implement all of the new strategies and ideas and skills that it takes to perform in this role as a teacher in this current age. Professional development will no longer be considered a swear word or a bad word. It will be something that teachers earnestly look forward to, something that will help to scratch that itch they have for knowledge and looking for new ways to engage their students and support learning in newer, better, amazing ways.